How do you do? It's me, Stefan Burchard, the Desert Bowtie Realtor, with your latest episode of Networking Nuggets. Today, I have a colleague in networking and a good friend, Austin Beneteau, with Modern Woodmen of America. So Austin has agreed to be my next interviewee and share his experiences of networking. So Austin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Austin Beneteau. I'm financial advisor for Modern Woodmen of America, and basically had met you, Stefan, through, I believe, BNI, I think prior to Chamber.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, so basically met you through BNI, and here we are about three and a half years later, and looking forward to this.
Cool. So when we think of networking, of course, there's all kinds of physical places we can go. But the point of this question is to hopefully think outside the box and get people that are listening to think outside the box with regards to networking. So when it comes to venues or places you network, is there anything you can think of that's uncommon, like outside of BNI or chamber events?
Yeah, I think kind of one of the most uncommon, because typically, like you said, everyone thinks of BNI or chambers. One of the areas that I've done networking and it's been very successful has been the Cornhole League. So it's before COVID-19. We were having 80 to 120 people a week play cornhole for charity, and it wasn't really set up originally for networking, but it just happened to be when everyone kind of takes their tie off, has a couple drinks, enjoys, and it's not actually network specific. A lot more business actually has been done, really, just because people feel comfortable and relaxed. And so that's been kind of a little oddball networking nugget for myself that I found.
Wonderful. So for those of us that have no freaking clue what cornhole is, would you please tell us what a cornhole tournament is?
Yeah, so basically, some people call it bag toss, whatever the case is. You have two boards set up. There's a hole in the board. You have four bean bags, and you basically compete like basically horseshoes with just a different strategy. And so we started a nonprofit to do that. Basically raise money for nonprofits in the valley locally, and we get an 80 people, 40 teams, and we've just been doing really well. 15 to 20 week seasons, raising 7 to 10 grand for charity, and from there, just it's really taken off, and people are looking, I think, for something a little different than your typical chamber, BNI, whatever the case is, corporate feel. And so not only do you get a network, meet new people, have a good time, but you're also helping out charities. So that's kind of one I've found that's been a little different than your typical networking.
Well, now I'm interested, daggone it.
And there's a lot of sponsorships too. So it's actually been good for businesses. You can basically sponsor boards. So everyone that's playing, they have to play on the boards we provide. Those boards will have sponsorships of certain basically businesses around here, preferred services on there, Jimmy John's, etc. And so it's a good place.
It's wonderful. So if somebody wanted to go find out about your cornhole tournament, is there a website or a place they could find out more about it?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. David Conover, a really good friend of mine, he basically is the president of that. And it's basically Desert, the number 4 baggers. And so if you look up Desert 4 baggers on Facebook, you'll find us and you'll be able to communicate with us and find out, as COVID requirements kind of change, we'll figure out when the season's going to start up and start doing tournaments again.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to going to events, is there any kind of materials or preparation that you like to make sure you've got it under your belt before you go?
Depending on what it was, I remember going to first networking events before really doing any of it, not knowing what to do. You have a bunch of business cards. You think that if you collect 100 business cards or give out 100 business cards, you're doing great. I've kind of taken an opposite approach, really, is only give out business cards to people that ask, that come from specific conversations. One, because maybe you had more in-depth conversation and actually they are interested, as well as I keep in mind, if I collect 50 business cards, I'm not going to call all of them, because a lot of times people just say, hey, Austin, here's my card, call me, I want your business, and walk away. Well, most likely I'm not going to work with that person. And so I found, what type of relationships and conversations lead to potential business and working together. And that's really kind of shaped it. So for me, really, it's just kind of being yourself, be somewhat specific if the opportunity is there. Otherwise, just, try to meet new people and not talk to the same people at every event. Otherwise, you're not really going anywhere.
Perfect. I like how you were talking about what came to mind when you were talking about how you give and receive business cards, because I kind of do the same thing. What we're doing is we're being strategic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
rather than just passing out our business cards like we're playing poker, we're actually like, hey, I really like that person. I want to get to know them a little deeper. I want to go to coffee with them. I want to go to, that's how I do it. It's like, if I want to meet with you for coffee or lunch, I'm going to give you my card. Hopefully you're going to give me your card so I know I follow up on it.
Definitely. And that's really the big thing, right? I mean, I'd rather have one or two great connections per mixer or networking event opposed to having 50 surface level connections that nothing's going to transpire. So if I leave a networking event with one really good sit down for either way, that's a success for me. And that way it's just, you might not be getting the 50 contacts, but you're getting, potentially one per event that actually leads to business in some way.
Exactly, because it's like you said, I would rather have one or two that I know they're going to help my clients or they're going to send me referrals.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
with 50, you're just hopefully putting them in your CRM and you're just going to blast them like a shotgun. Good luck if you get a response rate.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely taken a lot of trial and error, doing this
Oh,
for
yeah.
4 years now, networking. Have done some good and bad things. And, that's kind of what I found, at least at this point.
Wonderful. Is there any kind of education or inspiration that you like to think about to keep you going, keep your brain fed?
Yeah. I mean, really, when it comes down to, there's so many different things. I love reading business management books. Obviously in this industry, in the financial services, there's always things to read just for keeping up to date on what's going on, trends, market, etc. So that alone is quite substantial, but there's quite a few books. I try to read one a month in regards to business management of some sort, leadership, networking, anything in that realm. And so, for the most part, I just really enjoy what I do. And so the more I can do it, the more motivated I get. And so from that, the more you network, the more business you get, the more excited you are, just full circle.
Yeah, cool. Do you have a funny story around networking or a mistake that was funny?
I have a mistake and something that was kind of fun. So I remember the first big event I went to probably 3.5 years ago. There's probably 500-600 people at this event. This is before I really knew what I was doing in the networking side. And I wear cufflinks every day, basically. And so at the time, I didn't think about it. And I was sitting at a table with what I thought were pretty important people and really wanted to make a good impression. Well, I was being a nice guy and went to go get the butter for someone at the table, reached across the table. My cufflinks hit the chocolate cake, didn't know it. And so I'm sitting there in my suit and I just, you put your hands there, down, whatever it is. And I had chocolate all over my suit, realized it. And so then I tried to exit best I could, basically trying not to show my chest towards anyone and get out as soon as possible. So that was definitely something. Here we are 3.5 years later. I still remember it and quite embarrassing. So there's that one. And then for a good idea or something that was kind of fun and different from at least what I'm used to is I sponsored the State of the City for La Quinta, I believe last year. And unfortunately, something came up and I had to go out of town, and so I couldn't go there. So what I did is I recorded a video. It was probably 2-3 minutes, just about the same time I would have talked or spoke at that event, kind of introing the event, who I am, etc. Well, since I couldn't be there, at that time I was pretty much at every event out there, and so wanted to still be there. So what I did is I basically got large paint sticks. I had my headshot. I cut out, printed larger so it fits almost life size, right? And so I put about, I don't know, 4 to 6 at every table there. And I basically said, hey, I'm here in spirit. I would love if you took a photo with you, your company, your friends, at your office, wherever that is, and post it. And so the amount of pictures that I was getting with city council, people putting them in their car, put the seatbelt on, pictures of that, people putting it in their office in another chair. I know Luna Inc. over there, David and Neil, they put my stick up basically and would move it around the office. Every time I'd come in, I'd see it in a different place. And so it was something that here we are 3 years later or 2 years later, they still have it in their office. There's still some people that will send me pictures here and there, but it was a little bit different, adapting to not being able to get there, but it was fun as well. So that was a fun one.
That is adorable. Did you come up with that idea yourself?
Actually, I have to give credit where credit's due. Katie Stice at the time was
Yeah, she's great.
She gave me that idea because I told her, hey, I can't make it to this. And she kind of came up with that idea. And then I just basically executed it. So she gave me a great idea. It felt a little out of my comfort zone because, typically it's just, And so I got a little bit out of that, and it was a lot of fun. And I actually got a lot better response than I thought I would.
Yeah. I've known you that long. So 3 years ago, yeah, you were still a little stiff. So
yeah, so try to work on that. Obviously you have to stay, stiff enough, but at the same point, I think people really respond to people being themselves. And the more you can do that in a professional way, a lot better response.
So we're going to get a little bit off script here. I'm curious, what has been your experience? What is the result, or how has networking enhanced you as an individual, as an adult, as a business person?
Yeah, so I'd say on the personal side, prior to this, a little bit younger, wanted to own my own business, got in the construction realm and started running a company, and we didn't do any networking. It was just basically worked with a lot of subs, GCs, things of that nature, and that's just where business came, and it was built up enough. Moving into this realm, when the purchase of that didn't work out, basically networking is basically the bloodline for new business. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I went in with a check for the chamber, a check for BNI, didn't even know what they were, but people told me I had to do it. And so, I remember the first networking event I went to was 3.5, 4 years ago. And it was at the La Quinta Golf Open event. I guess they kind of just do the golf event out here, and it's just opening for it. And so it's a big event, and I didn't know anyone at the time. I think I met maybe Rebecca Rizzo, and that was pretty much it. She got me signed up with Greater Coachella Valley Chamber and said, hey, there's an event tonight. So I get there, it's 5 o'clock, day's over. I'm sitting in my truck thinking, I could leave right now, come back, start tomorrow. I'll start networking tomorrow. And I was sitting there, and I happened to have like a 5-hour energy drink in my truck. And I thought, hey, this caffeine is going to give me enough energy to get social, And so I drank the whole thing. It's 5, 6 o'clock at night, so sleep wasn't great that night. But it gave me a little kick, and maybe mental. I walked in, and, that was kind of where everything happened. And so today I've realized that it's a lot easier than people think, right? You go into a huge event, you think that you have to be the speaker or whatever it is in your head, and you build it up too much and you get too nervous. Everyone else there is doing the same thing you're doing. They want to grow their business. Yeah. They're usually down to earth, good people. And really, when it comes down to it, you're looking at a one-on-one conversation to maybe a group of 4 people. Just look at it that way. Don't look at the whole event at 200, 300, 400 people. Look at, hey, I'm going to get in there, meet 1 or 2 people. They're going to introduce you to a couple people, and just keep just small conversations. And as you get more confident and you realize you start meeting people, everyone's in the same boat, and it gets a lot easier. And now today, if there's a big network event, I have no problem walking in. I'm almost excited for it in some ways. And so personally, I've grown a lot in regards to kind of getting out of my comfort zone. I think naturally I am a little bit more extrovert, and so that's all right. But those times where you don't want to do it, you just have to force yourself through, and it ends up getting a lot better. So I think I've grown definitely as a person. Business, you have to do it. A lot of the successes now, I didn't buy a book of business. And so when I started with no clients. So it's purely on networking, building relationships to become, where I'm at now. And so it's taken a lot. So I think business wise, it's definitely necessary, and it was really great, but really overall it's helped me personally, which has helped in turn my business, because it just helps all around.
Excellent. That's a really good answer. And my message to the people out there listening or watching is, just remember, the other people in the room are probably just as nervous or more nervous than you are.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to do is I notice the little clicks going on at networking events. And what I know is those people are just uncomfortable to go around and introduce themselves to new people. So I always make a point of breaking up cliques, not like getting them to disband, but I just go in, introduce myself, have a conversation with them. And sometimes I've made some great contacts that way, but.
Yeah. And sometimes just have fun with it when it really comes down to it, icebreakers, just have some fun, get to know people on a different level, don't go right in and say, hey, Stefan, from the name tab, hey, Stefan, so this is what I do. Here's my card. You should call me tomorrow and we'll sit down. Great. All right. Have a great evening, and walk away. Go in there, talk about something. You have a bow tie. That's a great icebreaker. Starts conversation. Have a good time. And really, when it comes down to it, people are going to respond to that so much better. You know, when you go in and kind of crack some jokes here and there, even if they're dumb, you know, because I may be known for the occasional dad joke that doesn't hit all the time. But, you know, it's still something, right? And just have a good time with it, because everyone, like you said, is in the same boat, and everyone's waiting for someone to be enjoyable to be around. You know, they don't want to go in there and see 5 different clicks. They're not in any of them, and they can't get around. So just be accepting, have a good time, and, you know, be yourself.
We've kind of answered the other question already, which is something you've learned at events. Do you have anything to add that I haven't asked you or that we haven't covered?
I think the biggest thing too, really, when it comes down to it, no matter what industry you're in, when I first started, I saw a lot of people in the chamber that were, and just networking in general, that were hyper aggressive, right? Just, Stefan, here's my card. You need to call me. I'm going to call you 7 times a week, basically, until eventually you sit down or you block my number. And in some cases, you know, sometimes you have to be a little bit more direct, a little bit more aggressive. But I also saw that and saw the reaction people had to those people that were doing that. And so I kind of almost went on the opposite side of it, where, hey, I'm all about the relationship first, business second, which is important. But at the same time, if you go too far that way as well, I've had people, clients today, you know, that have said, hey, Austin, you just had to ask. Why didn't you ask? And so you have to find that happy medium of, don't be too aggressive, but you also eventually, if you're just only working on the relationship and that's it for 3 years, you're going to miss out on a lot of business opportunities if you just don't ask. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? You say, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this. You have a 401k or group health plan or anything of that nature? No? Cool. Would you like to? No? Okay, that's it. Now, if they say, actually, I would love that. I don't have someone handling that, and I'd love to start that. Let's talk. Okay, now you got potentially a client, someone you can educate, someone you can help, and potentially a long-lasting relationship there. So you really have to find that happy medium and just trial by error, you know?
Perfect. So I think the big message here with Austin, y'all, is have fun, take it light, and go easy about it. So yeah, Austin, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you taking time out to join me in my lovely venture called Networking Nuggets. I love doing this, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stefan. Appreciate it.